Welcome back to Daybreak with Vivek Sanal and myself, Muriel Disa. And yes, this is Talk Compliance brought to you by Tally Solutions. We are in conversation with CA Rajiv Hira of RHMC Management Consultants.
So Rajiv Hira ji के बारे में आपको बताते हैं. He's a high caliber finance professional with an experience of leading roles in private and multinational financial institutions for over 25 plus years in the area of risk management, compliance, investment analysis, investment management, taxation advisory, and management consulting. Expertise in connecting with people and processes to arrive at the effective value proposition for businesses derived from hands-on experience of working in multicultural and multinational organization, and he has experience of working in Asia, Africa, and Middle East.
So, actively working in UAE and large corporates, SME, and individuals on indirect tax implementation advisory and transactional advisory, contributed in development of resources with professional bodies, training institutes, and corporates through structured training, seminars, and articles. Now, he's got hands-on experience in engaging with regulators and governing bodies in the space of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. This work involves understanding the strategic intent and implementation objectives for compliance.
Welcome
to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great to be back here talking about tax and the tax stories.
और टैक्स स्टोरीज तो अभी और आगे आगे जो है ना कह रहे हैं कि स्टीम जो है वो पकड़ता है और बहुत ज़्यादा पकड़ रहा है. बिकॉज आज हमने AML के बारे में काफ़ी पढ़ा न्यूज़ में कि UAE का एक वर्कशॉप हुआ, उसके बारे में थोड़ा बहुत हम जानेंगे लेटर ऑन. But as of now, corporate tax, or as a finance manager, important aspects क्या है, or the practical professional need to understand corporate tax perspective में ये बहुत ज़रूरी है जानना.
See, corporate tax, आपने AML framework बोला, आपने corporate tax बोला. I think both are related.
Oh, okay.
I keep connecting a lot of dots. You talk about corporate tax, you talk about customs, you talk about VAT, you talk about AML. You cannot look at any of these framework on a standalone basis.
Okay.
I think any framework I say when it comes to tax or compliance, we need to look at first why you are getting that framework, why these laws are coming up, and what need to be done is also an important part. And the last thing is how we are going to do it. So all these three factors are the more important things and to be looked at from a tax perspective.
Right. But Rajiv, today there has been a news that has come in, a news story that is breaking out, and the government is saying if failure to comply with corporate tax on the 1st of August 2023 will result in hefty fines and you can be penalized for it. So what was this news story all about, and why is the government putting such harsh, stringent measures at people?
See, when we are learning a driving, I think what we should be focusing at that time learning the driving. Don't focus how many fines are going to come up. First thing. First, we should learn what is the right thing, what are the compliance things to be done. And then we look at what are the fines, penalties which are there. Because these are more deterrent factors. And they're important from a regulator perspective to make sure that things are done in a right way. So what the regulation has seen from the VAT era, from the excise era to the corporate tax, it is getting quite streamlined. They have reduced a lot of penalties, fines from the initial period. I'm not saying they are at a lower end right now, but they have reduced considerably a lot of things. But definitely they want to make a deterrent factor that people don't go on the wrong direction. People should think seriously for adoption at this stage itself, so that when the time comes, we should not be saying that, oh, I have not seen it.
Now, I need a little bit of understanding on this. उन्होंने कहा कि 1st अगस्त से ये रूल अप्लाई होगा कि कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स पे hefty fines लगना शुरू होंगे if you don't comply with it. Now, what does that mean? Because कोई deadline तो है नहीं.
See, देखिए, a lot of things have happened, and moreover, this is a tax procedure. This is not only for a corporate tax. This is a tax procedure which will adopt by various other tax actions also. Now, this is getting reinstated. Like from 1st of August, we will start the process. Now the process is already started for a couple of people because the corporate tax is already started off, and it depends on which financial year you start and your action will start. So for some companies, the action is already started. Let's say if I have or someone has a company where financial year starting from 1st of August, then from 1st August 23 is where the corporate tax procedures will start for them. And it's not only about filing the return, paying the taxes and all that stuff. It's also to start with compliance. Compliance starts with even bookkeeping also. Are you having a right bookkeeping records with you? Are you maintaining the invoices and records as being required by the corporate tax regime? Are you doing the transaction under arm's length transfer pricing? All those pointers which we are talking about are getting implemented. So creating a document from today itself is important, and this can be verified any time as a process goes on.
Right, but Rajiv, MNCs any which ways will be following this at close, and I'm sure they would have their books of accounts. And this has been my, this has always been on my mind. When it comes to your small-time businesses, people don't really maintain their books of accounts. How do you expect those businesses to comply, to understand the mechanics where corporate tax is concerned? Who's in today's day and age open their book and they do, मतलब हिसाब उस पे करते हैं?
See, for doing anything and everything, we need to have some regulation framework, something to be done, right? Again, I'll go back to the driving mechanism. We all know driving in our home countries, right? But we come here and take a new driving license. And this is again a same stringent procedure, or maybe a lot of times higher also, we follow through. Why we follow through? Because this country has a different regulation. This country follows through the different procedures. So when someone is now from a SME perspective, medium enterprises, large, whatever, so there are brackets which even authorities have given. They said if you have a turnover till this period, don't make any of these documents. If you have a turnover to this period, we give exemption for you to make these documents. However, what is required has to be maintained. One thing which is very common, we are hearing a threshold of 1 million, 3 million, 200 million and all that. How will you even establish that my turnover is less than 200 or more than 200? Or less than 1 million or more than 1 million? So you need to have at least a basic accounting procedures. Now, I think in the market there are a lot of systems which are quite user-friendly, which can be looked at. Tally being our sponsor and the partner in this game also is one of that, where you can see, you can take those systems and you can start adopting the procedures. If you're not having a capability in-house, look at someone who can help you support. These are not expensive affairs to maintain, but the breaches are very expensive. So that's where it comes back to.
In fact, I was about to ask you, what about the expense? Because this is again expense incurred on the small businesses. So moving forward, what are the important aspects where, which any finance manager or a practicing professional needs to understand from a corporate tax perspective? Rajiv, we will get to this question, but after the break.
अगर आपके पास कोई सवाल है तो you can always give us a call right now, 800-81003. CA Rajiv Hira हमारे साथ. This is Talk Compliance brought to you by Tally Solutions. The number to WhatsApp 05-8686-1003.
Talk 100.3.
Before we could head on a break, I actually asked him a question. I asked him what are the important aspects which any finance manager or a practicing professional needs to understand from corporate tax perspective.
Yeah, I think basic things comes up is whether we know the business and what need to be done to take an action. A lot of large corporate employees who are the finance managers or accounts managers, or even related with the finance or accounts in any form or fashion. So they're thinking that, okay, we'll have consultants, we'll look at those consultants, hire them, take the services, what is required. My take to them is at least understand the basics. You don't need to go to maybe a very larger scale, how the documentation has to be done. Maybe for transfer pricing, you can always hire a consultant. But you need to know what questions to be asked for. So I need to be aware about, from my business perspective, that, okay, I am doing these 10 transactions. Out of these 10 transactions, I need to be careful about these 4. 6 is perfectly fine because the corporate tax laws tell me how and what to be done.
Correct.
So I think at a global level or at a larger level, if we see, everyone, we are talking about now, every person in an organization has to be trained to an extent. Okay. May not be completely, they not need to be grasping each sections, articles and everything, but they need to know the overview of what's happening. So again, 3 questions: why this law has come, definitely should know. What need to be done within the framework, within the transaction type they are handling, they need to know, and how it to be done. Maybe you can outsource the house to the other people also. But coming to the professionals who are practicing in this field, definitely need to get more expertise. They need to drill down to what practices they are forming. So if they are filing maybe a corporate tax returns for the clients, definitely the understanding has to be much at a granular and a larger scale, because they can't think of excluding those pointers in the discussion. We need to know everything. However, we may not need to be expert in all the fields, when and where those items or elements are required, we need to go back to the books, open up the law, open up the cabinet and managerial decision, look at the pointers which are being highlighted. So learning everything, I don't think it's a doable task for everyone, but understanding the framework is most important thing which we say.
But Rajiv, if, for example, I remember when corporate tax was in the making, and we were talking about this when the law was just released, and we were made aware of. Now, if I forget to add on anything in when I'm submitting my documents to the authorities, I could be at a risk of paying a hefty fine, even if it's my fault or not.
Uh, so there is always an error and omission, and the error and omission get penalized. So there is no excuse on that part.
But there is
Whether
an error, and what if you rectify? Is there no way that I can go and rectify?
you can rectify, but there is again a cost for that. So in VAT era also we have seen when you are not able to submit anything and you resubmit. So this is called voluntary disclosure, or you are resubmitting. So there are fines and penalties, because look at aspect. Point number one, you are letting the tax authorities do some extra work. So that's one part. Second part, if you ignore for the time being on the extra work also, there are amount or taxes which you need to pay maybe 3 months, 6 months, or maybe 1 year back.
Okay.
Who is going to pay that interest and fines on those parts? So both things have to be taken care of. Although the fines have been reduced in the last decision also, where initially it was 1% per day fine was also there, and which has come down to 4% a month. So those are frameworks have changed, but it's again a huge amount in any sense.
Absolutely. And also जब corporate tax की बात करते हैं तो there are other acts as well which we need to keep in mind, because it is not the only corporate tax के act जो आपको ध्यान रखने हैं, or is it something else as well?
Life is all interconnected. So बहुत simple, like अगर आप you are importing some goods, you are getting through the customs. If you are into the business where excise duties are applied, you pay excise duty. When you bring in the country, VAT applicability comes into. Now, what are you reporting in the corporate tax? So there is a very simple mechanism where any authorities would like to match those transactions. They would say, okay, you have imported something on the month of July. Can you show me those invoices? And if you match those invoices with the corporate tax, what you have submitted, if there is a mismatch, there is a problem. So every act, every section has to be looked at. You pay salary through WPS, right? And you are claiming those expenses. If there is a mismatch on that, what you have paid through WPS, wage protection system, or even in the free zones otherwise also, and what is being recorded in the corporate tax, if there is a mismatch, there are concerns.
Now, corporate tax एक तो होता है revenue for the government, the other is the compliance part of it. Now, compliance part of it में कौन से acts साथ में आएंगे? Will it be the acts that we were talking today about AML as well? Will that is a important part of compliance?
Okay, I'll frame it other way. Corporate tax is one of the mitigating factors to prevent money laundering.
Okay.
So when there is a issues on money laundering or other things, what you want an organization to do, start recording. And corporate tax is forcing us to record each transaction, and hence any abnormality will be immediately caught up.
Right, Rajiv. What businesses fall under high risk, areas, high risk business? I know the jewelry industry does. The banking sector does as well.
There are two things we need to look at. Point number one, from an AML perspective, they talk about something called gatekeepers.
Okay.
So before 2018, the gatekeepers in UAE were the banks, financial institutions, exchange houses. So they were considered as a gatekeeper. They said, okay, you vouch for what transactions are passing through that, make sure they are compliant. If not, then report us. Report us means report to the financial intelligence unit, which is part of central bank.
Right.
Now they have extended in 2018, those gatekeepers to a new statement or a new version came, which is DNFBP, designated non-banking business professionals. So they brought up, as you rightly picked up, DPMS, dealers in precious metals and stones, real estate agents, auditors and accountants, corporate service providers, lawyers. They were all brought up into ambit. They said, if you are doing any business or any transaction or advising the client in those part, you also make sure that clients are doing right. If there is a problem, do report.
Right, but actually the processes which is in place for those industries is also, I think, quite compliant according to you, or it is not?
Now, right?
So they are moving into quite a compliance space, I will say.
Okay.
Since 2018, we have seen a sea change. where there are registrations in the AML authorities, or you can say financial intelligence units. People are reporting the abnormalities or transaction which they feel are not, or they have a suspicion. You don't need to be sure that there is something wrong. If you are suspecting also, you are supposed to report. So the numbers of suspicious reporting has increased, which is making an economical and transactional sense also, because now you have a database to vouch for what's happening.
Right. So when corporate tax was brought into picture, a lot of industries, a lot of businesses said, now we would see a different chain of reaction, because businesses were not too happy moving from the free zone to the mainland, or if they had to make the switch even. The UAE right now is seeing an influx of businesses, investors. It has attracted an influx of investors into the country. Do you think corporate tax has a lot to do with this, because it brings in that sort of a stability to the country?
I will say the influx will increase because of corporate tax, because initially, because of a zero tax economy, we were not conceived to be a better place by a lot of countries from that perspective. But when you have a corporate tax, that means the country is under the regulation, the country is getting vouched for, people are maintaining their records, so the integrity of the country will increase multifold in that part. And moreover, we talk about free zone, mainland. I think a lot of discussions are happening. But to be honest, from a regulator perspective or from authorities' perspective, you see that given a lot of exemptions, if people follow through the right mechanisms, they can take a lot of benefits from a corporate tax perspective. So I think the move is fantastic, but they don't want to give a free flow to anyone. That okay, if you are a free zone, just enjoy 0%. So that was initially also there, but the thought has been broken out. Yes, you can get 0%, but subject to you do these businesses, you are under the thresholds, you don't do business of those activity which are taxable for more than 5%. So all those framework has come up. So I think it's a balanced move. We are heading to a more regulated economy, more governed economy. The governance framework is enhancing like anything. I can see from 2018 till now, if I just talk about the way businesses are done, the way professionals are reacting is very different.
Super. We'll know more about this as well. अगर आपके पास भी कोई सवाल, you can always give us a call 808-1003 or WhatsApp 0586861003. This is Talk Compliance, brought to you by Tally Solutions.
Talk 100.3.
CA Rajiv Hira हमारे साथ. We're talking about corporate tax, AML, CTF as well. We got a question from Naresh इस वक्त. Rajiv. Good morning, Rajiv. Need to understand, my company has head office in Europe. We have branch office in Davza. We have distributes in Middle East. Our invoice also gets generated from Europe office for UAE distributor. We don't maintain accounts here. Please let me know, do I need to maintain accounts here in corporate point of view and in VAT?
So I think multiple things. So it looks like it's a foreign entity having a representative office in the free zone. So the representative office, what they do, they are basically just taking the contracts and invoicing happening from the European market or the parent entity. Now, there are multiple things which need to be looked at. Point number one, since these transactions are not executed here, what is the fees or income they are supposed to receive from the foreign entity? So there is definitely a transfer pricing mechanism has to be looked at. Technically, what's happening is you are sitting in UAE, you are executing all the contracts, but invoicing happening from outside the UAE. So why UAE company is doing, or a UAE branch is doing any business for them? What is the profit, or what is the profit of share? Should shift from the European market or a European country to UAE. So that need to be very clearly looked at in this case. And definitely they have to maintain the books of accounts. Transfer pricing is the key thing which they have to look at to get into a tax compliance.
So बहुत ज़रूरी है नरेश, and this has been his question quite काफ़ी time से, and thank you for making it very clear that he has to maintain books of accounts.
Right. And Rajiv, when you're talking about maintaining books of accounts, could you talk to us about the importance of, not just educating your finance managers or the accountants, but also educating your entire staff? Is this something that companies should look into?
Definitely. See, we have gone through the era before 2018. If I just talk about, we were not having a VAT or excise which just came in 2017 itself. There was no regulation. So normally I can vouch for and go back to my those days and think how the owners used to talk about, how much balance is the bank account, how much is receivable and payable. So these were the conversations used to happen. But now, unless you don't tell your marketing manager that if you're going outside, spending some money, let's say taking the clients outside for a dinner, dine and all that, how much is allowed?
Only 50%.
Exactly. 1 point. Second, for claiming 50% also I need to have an invoice.
Right.
For having an invoice, that manager should know that I need to have an invoice in the name of whom? In the name of a company itself.
Company. जिस पे VAT आपने pay किया है anyways to the...
Correct. So unless the company name is not written on the invoice, how the company can claim that? So I'm talking about these are very basic things. If I'm talking about a guy who is doing logistic service provider for a company, he may not be a finance guy, he may not be an accounting guy, but is he required to know where the corporate tax details or where the VAT details has to be mentioned in the invoice? Answer is yes. Okay. Does he require to know how much documents I need to carry with me when I'm importing or when I'm exporting? Is the exit certificate mandatory or not? Answer is yes. So all this documentation, knowledge, understanding can only come once you give an overall perspective to those employees also, to whatever they relate to. I'm not saying we need to bombard them for everything, but at least at a holistic level, they need to understand. And second, within their department, what is important, they need to understand.
And ये तो रही बात companies की, but you know also seminars और workshops भी conduct हो रहे हैं. And one workshop जो हुआ इसी हफ्ते, I think अबू धाबी में हुआ ये World Bank methodology समझा रहे थे about AML and CFT.
UAE is taking a lot of role in coming as a front end. They are becoming I can say a pioneer in the global space. They want to be part of that. So that's what's happening right now. अब उसमें there are very multiple things which are there. Point number one, we have done a treaties with multiple countries on sharing information, on collecting information in some cases. Not in a lot of cases. Collecting is little bit restricted, but sharing information is quite open. So just pick it up. All the Asian markets maximum are covered within that. So there is a common reporting standards. There is FATF, FATCA framework, where data is getting shared across countries. Normally, we have seen whenever AML scenario comes, it is not within the country. It's always cross-border. So unless you don't have a treaties with other countries, how to execute, what kind of a protocols to be followed to talk to the other jurisdiction to get the information. So I think that's where the main focus is happening. The collaboration between the countries are happening quite extensively, and you will see a lot of fines, penalties across boards or across countries which are coming up now. We have seen off late in last 6 months even, couple of even arrests happened in UAE.
Superb. अगर आपको भी ज़्यादा इन्फॉर्मेशन जानना है तो डू लेट अस नो. आवर व्हाट्सएप नंबर इज 0586861003. सी राजीव हीरा हमारे साथ. दिस इज अ गोल्डन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू नो एनीथिंग अबाउट कॉर्पोरेट टैक्स, एनीथिंग अबाउट फाइनेंस इन जनरल, अबाउट AML आपको जानना है. 0586861003. This is Talk Compliance, brought to you by Tally Solutions.
Talk 100.3.
Welcome back. We are in conversation with CA Rajiv Hira, and right now we are talking about staying compliant. And the question that I'm going to ask you, Rajiv, is what are the aspects to be looked into understanding and implementation of corporate tax, along with training the workforce management and board members?
So I think this is what we closed the conversation before the break also. Knowledge and understanding is very important as we talk right now. So we as a organization also are approved from KHTA to impart the training on tax and compliance. So we are specializing on tax and compliance aspect. We do a couple of Power BI, which is again mainly related to the finance expertise, how to create a dashboard. So I think the most important part and what we are seeing and doing right now is giving a high level perspective to the board. I'll just give you a timing also so you understand the differential treatment which you are doing. So for the board, generally we conduct a session for approximately 2 hours. We take them through the overview, the high level aspects of what need to be looked at, what are their duties and responsibilities to vouch for, and whom should they question to make the compliance effective. Second level, there is a general awareness sessions which we are doing for various departments. Again, it goes to 2 to 3 hours. Where, as I said, for the sales department, something different, for purchase, something different, for other operations department, we do some different aspects. Overall, so this again goes from 2 to 3 hours depending on which department we are talking about. And there is an extensive curriculum we run for 30 hours, which covers up the holistic aspect from a corporate tax. So that 30 hours is definitely a must for finance, accounting, and the professionals who are into the practice also, because we go quite deep in on the aspects of free zones, on transfer pricing, on allowable, not allowable expenses. So you name it, and you will have those sections as part of it. So I think this is most important thing which is coming up. And as a bonus item, we have added up Tally as one of the activity. How to set up your accounts in the Tally system. What are the account codes you can pick it up. What are the sections you can frame it so that Tally becomes a user friendly. What are the audit trails you can vouch for from a Tally system perspective. There is a lot of conversation happening between people is whether X system is corporate tax compliant or Y system is corporate tax compliant. I'll give an element. You cannot make any system 100% compliant from a corporate tax perspective, because there is a lot of subjectivity. There is a lot of transactional analysis which you need to do. So I think Tally has come up quite a way to give some transactional level account setups. As example, as a layman, we just talked about 50% allowed for entertainment. Can we set up a code which itself calculates the 50% and let us know, okay, these are the section 50% is required. Can we have a related party code separately so that we know these are related party? I need to look at arm's length. I need to look at transfer pricing documents for these transactions. So I think those are enablers which can be built up in any system, and Tally is also being enabled on those features. So I think
Actually, I wanted to ask you one more thing about reimbursements as well. Uske liye bhi hai, there is some specification as well, because a lot of companies reimburse you for the petrol that you fill in.
Correct. So
50% or?
VAT perspective is a different story. Petrol is not allowed unless it is used exclusively for office purpose.
Okay.
But from a corporate tax perspective, it is allowed. It's not an entertainment. It's an office need.
Okay.
But you need to make sure that the usage of that fuel is for the office purpose. In a general terminology, coming back and going to office is considered as office purpose in a general terms, not from a VAT perspective. So corporate tax will be allowed. Will be allowing those as an exceptions or exemptions to claim as a in the profit calculation.
Right. Rajiv, when you're talking about anti-money laundering, right, it's a huge subject for someone to understand. Are there any pointers that fall under this term so that people understand that, yes, if I'm crossing this path, or if I am, headed down this way, maybe I would be in for a bit of a surprise?
To give you a very straight and simple answer, if you follow the VAT, you follow the corporate tax, very unlikely you will break the framework of money laundering.
But then you have exceptions.
Exceptions. So I'm coming into the exception space now. So exception space comes in when you are using too much of cash transactions. So that's where we need to look at how those transactions are being built in. A very typical example, let's talk about, I have someone whom I exported the goods, like outside UAE, and that gentleman or that entity does not have a presence in UAE. And that entity is giving me a cash as my sales proceed. Now first question comes, how the cash is generated in this country when this gentleman does not have any entity or a structure in UAE. Now let's link up one more thing. There is a import regulation on cash and precious metals and precious stones, which is there, and 100,000 is a maximum limit. So if you cannot import those material, including cash, which I am referring to, how there is cash is being paid. So those are the connecting pointers which comes. That's point number one. I talked about cash. Second, if you're doing any business, are you making the payment to the third party? Example, I'm doing a transaction with Muriel and paying to Vivek. Why?
But in a high sea trade, how would that work? Because if UAE is like a mediator, I mean, I have a person over here.
Correct.
Now I'm not bringing the goods to the country, but it's still going via waters from say, I don't know, Sweden to Oman even.
There is no concern on a transaction perspective, neither corporate tax, neither AML. I'll break the corporate tax at a later stage. Let's pick up AML. Let's say example, I'm buying the goods. I'm just taking a example from African continent, and I'm supplying to the European market. So which is a typical transaction for raw materials. So if I'm buying from Africa, I'm supposed to pay to the African entity from where I have purchased the goods. Although the goods are going to the third location, doesn't make a difference. But if I'm selling the goods to the European market from where the money is coming in. So if you look at, I'm not transacting or I'm not doing with a third party. Where I'm purchasing, I'm paying, where I'm selling, I'm receiving the money. That's perfectly aligned. Corporate tax has little bit of you can say action plan on the third port shipment which is coming up. Designated zone, again connecting the corporate tax and a VAT, which is connected by the regulator itself. Where if you are in the designated zone and you do a third port shipment, they're still considered as a free zone income, qualified for 0% subject to other things. But if you are a mainland entity and you are doing a third port shipment, no grace, pay the taxes.
अगर आपके पास भी कोई सवाल, डू लेट अस नो. सी राजीव हीरा हमारे साथ. द व्हाट्सएप नंबर 0586861003. दिस इज टॉक कंप्लायंस brought to you by Tally Solutions.
Talk 100.3.
Welcome to Daybreak with Vivek Sanal and myself, Muralisa. And yes, this is Talk Compliance. Still in conversation with CA Rajiv Hira, Managing Partner, RHMC Management Consultants. And we actually, Rajiv, want to know a little bit more about anti-money laundering. And that was what we were discussing. And you were trying to explain it, breaking it down for us. Go
Correct.
ahead.
So the first point, as we talked about the cash, the second point, no third-party payments or transactions which we are executing. And the third thing which comes very important, and the regulators are also aligning messaging, giving road shows, seminars on that, is suspicious account reporting. So if you find anything which is not aligned, which is something someone is trying to do or use you as a tool to evade the taxes, or even move the money in the wrong way, then reporting becomes quite essential. So these are the three factors which are looked at. Then comes industry specific things, how the DPMS should look at, how the gold and diamond, how the real estate should look at. So all those are the framework. But I think if you follow 2-3 principles, as I said, taxes, make sure you are compliant with what the law of from a VAT, from a corporate tax is telling us to do. Why I'm emphasizing that point, the moment you do that, you're recording your transaction, you are making sure you have right invoices, you are making the payments through the banking channels, the transaction is getting aligned, one part. Second, cash is being reduced to an extent possible. I'm not saying cash can be zeroized, because there are some activities.
In jewelry business or any other business, how do you minimize that transactions where cash is concerned? Some people, yes, do swipe their cards, but you get a lot of walk-in customers that come in with cash.
Beautiful section on that. 55,000 is a limit. If you take anything more than 55,000 in cash, it is a reportable item. Okay. And when you say it's a reportable item, it's not only reportable, you have to record also who has given you cash through his passport, her passport, or Emirates ID. It's a mandatory requirement.
Even if they come to sell their old gold?
Anything. Any transaction, buy, sell, more than 55,000 comes into the ambit. Even now, real estate asks for the reporting requirement for the real estate also. So I'm saying every respective industry has its own activity which is done. So again, for this, we have e-learning courses where we do for DPMS, we do for auditor, accountant, and corporate service provider. People can enroll, go through the three broad mechanism. One is risk-based approach. I'll just give a very high-level risk-based approach, because this section itself is a 2-3 hour section.
Oh, wow.
So risk-based approach is when I'm dealing with anyone, I have to identify the risk for the person I'm dealing with. Example, I'll just give a high-level example. If someone has a bank account in UAE, I'll feel it's a comfortable guy. If someone has a physical office in UAE and he's not a briefcase business, I'll give more comfort to that business activity. Someone is doing business for more than 3 years, my risk automatically reduces. Someone has a VAT registration, my risk reduces. So those are the elements to be looked at. Now, some of the elements which increases the risk, as you rightly picked up, dealers in precious metals and stone is technically a high-risk business. Scrap dealing is a high-risk business. Oil trading typically comes into a high-risk business. Which country I'm dealing with also has to be looked at. Whether the person has any background on politically exposed person, or someone who has already been prosecuted for some reason, then also the transaction with that person becomes risky. So a lot of reporting requirements, a lot of actions to assess the entity is a key which comes into play.
And also जो ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम के आपने बात की 30 hours on a lighter note, उसके बाद कोई सर्टिफिकेट भी मिलता है कि आपने कंप्लीट किया है ये ट्रेनिंग from RHMC?
We are KHD approved, so the certificate comes from KHD itself.
Wow.
And that's being handed over as a participation certificate, which is a KHD issued certificate technically.
And if I'm a Tally user, then is there a promo code for me?
Definitely, there are promo codes. So we have various Tally versions.
Okay.
So the promo codes come with definitely a discount and some other additional features also.
And your training programs, I'm sure a lot of businesses have benefited. If you could tell us how many businesses को फायदा हुआ है?
So far we have started from the Feb 23 itself, and we have already covered 350 participants who have gone through one or another certification course through us.
Right, and what were any particular queries that came to the front more often than usual that most of the 350 participants would have?
See, everyone has their own needs. So some example, this covers from 3 hours to 30 hours. So there are different courses which are there. So some courses are only for 3 hours, some courses are for 30 hours. So 30 hours is more extensive physical sessions which we conduct, where a lot of interaction happens. So when the interaction happens with the speaker, because it's not only one person who's doing a training. There are eight speakers who are part of it. Everyone has their own specialization. Everyone is expert in the field they talk about. I think the real life scenarios get discussed. You have a time to deliberate the pointers. So I think that's the most important thing. But biggest question right now, which is coming up, is a free zone, is a transfer pricing. So these are the very hot topics, and we cover. For a transfer pricing, we cover this curriculum for 6 months technically, and for a free zone, it covers almost a 4 hours of session, which is part of the 30 hours curriculum.
And how to use Tally Prime? Is it also the part of the course? And
Yeah,
कुछ key areas है जो
that's
cover?
a bonus part which we are added up for approximately 3 hours, where you understand if you're a Tally user. That's a bonus part apart from 30 hours. You get to know more about Tally, how to set up your accounts, how to look at audit trail. So all those actions are part of the 3-hour session, extensive one.
Right, and is there any prerequisite for understanding the corporate tax learning journey?
I'll say basics of accounting has to be known.
Okay.
Person should appreciate debit credit. Basics of VAT should be known. Person should understand how the VAT principles are adopted, and basics of UAE should be known. Because if we just start doing with the accounting understanding, with the VAT understanding, and with the UAE understanding, I think we need another 10 hours, which we do in some cases as a prerequisite. So we recommend people to have at least those high-level understanding. You need not be expert, but you should have a high-level view to join the session.
And how important is it for businesses as well? कि सिर्फ accountants नहीं, you actually need a professional CA's help as well. How important is that part?
Definitely it is, because see what happens normally in the large organization also, you may have a team of maybe 5 or 6 people who are in the finance. They are not only doing taxes. They are into various other things also.
Correct.
Point number one. Second, they get carried away in the hustle of the organization. So a lot of time management said, I need this MIS, I need that. So they get hassled into the day-to-day operation. So need someone who can give an expert view on the respective pointers. So that is where I say the external parties or external consultants comes and plays an important role and gives a good framework.
Right, and now a lot of people are migrating to the UAE, migrating population coming to the UAE now. Will the knowledge on taxes help in job improvement?
Definitely. If someone comes from any Asian market or Middle Eastern market, and he or she is not equipped with a new corporate tax story, I'm sure you will not be interviewed for the corporate tax or a finance department as we talk right now. Because people want the talent to understand the law. They need not be expert. They need to understand the basics, intricacies. So I'm sure anyone who undergoes any kind of a practical training or any kind of a practical aspects, which increases the employability. And even if you are employed also, the next scale can also come with that.
Right, and corporate tax has seen a lot of developments in the past few months now. Is there still a scope, a grey area that has not really been touched upon? I know free zones is we still to understand about what is the 0% area that will be completely deducted off the corporate tax. Are there still those kind of areas, or has the government, sat them down and have chalked those areas out for people?
See, I think a lot of clarity has come in. Still, I will say a lot of clarity is supposed to be received also. I'll just give a very, maybe a crude example from that perspective. VAT has come in 2018. Are we not still confused in some of the sections? We are.
Yes.
So the legal framework is always, or the financial legal framework, when we say about taxes, are always subject to what is written and what we are preconceiving. So there are always going to be some litigation, open points, some pointers where assessing officer or the person who is reading the law from the both different sides will have a different views. India, UK, or pick up any mature market also. The taxes are there for ages now. Still, there are court cases, there are
Correct.
litigation, there are penalties, fines which are coming up. So,
Right.
a lot of clarity has come in, and even from a ministry perspective, I'll appreciate and say that a lot of sessions they are conducting to drill down the pointers. No second thought. For example, for free zone, there was a clarity came, and then now, as of 2nd August, there is a public consultation document which is floating now.
Right.
If you have any comments, you can appreciate and send to the regulatory authorities. Now, which is a very good move. Now, why this move has come? Because I'm sure there are representations or there are specific free zones which are not getting the benefit which they're supposed to, and vice versa. So even ministries are also looking at reassessing what is best for the economy, what is best for the country, to make it compliant also and not to create a unnecessary burden. So I think there is a lot of positive aspects happening. But yes, I am sure after 1 year also when we talk about, there will be open and grey areas.
But you
Super.
somewhere also mentioned that this is going to be beneficial to businesses and industries. How? Could you highlight that part, please?
See, look at how the global economy was looking at us when we were 0% tax. It's considered as a zero tax economy. People go there just to save taxes. That's not the fact. We know in the sitting in the country, we have seen how the country has grown, how the employability has increased, how the businesses have flourished in a right way. Now this 0% versus 9% gives a benefit to the organization to even shift their base practically also, because they're going to pay 9% and they may save in the various other countries.
Correct.
So you will see the real economy, the manufacturing setup, the trading is anyway was there as a base from a UAE perspective, but manufacturing setup I can see, especially the industries which are more automatic, where less of the labor intensive activities are conducted, are getting their plants, their large setups are coming up in UAE quite fast now, and I'm sure this is going to be the trend going forward. And when you are starting manufacturing, you are looking at a food safety, you are looking at make in UAE kind of a concept which is coming up. A lot of CEPA agreements are getting executed. You will see a lot happening in UAE on the physical ground itself rather than trading. Although we have reached to a great extent on manufacturing, but I'm sure this is going to go to a larger scale in a next 2 to 3 years is what I can watch.
Superb. You know, you were talking about training programs as well. Quickly जानना चाहेंगे कि अगला batch कब start हो रहा है and how can people enroll for it?
So we are starting on 12th of August. As we talk, the 5th batch is getting completed. So people can enroll. They can connect us on our LinkedIn or our
Website
website also.
rhmc.ae.
Yeah, there is an inquiry column. They can fill it up. Or very soon, I think within a day or two, Tally is also releasing the brochures, and you can apply from there also. Happy to connect on those parts.
So LinkedIn पे if you search for CA Rajiv Hira HIRA तो आपको connection जो है मिल जाएगा LinkedIn पे. Is very extremely popular on LinkedIn.
Absolutely, and he's also very popular in our studios. But thank you so very much, CA Rajiv, for taking time out and coming to our studios and having this chat with us.
To apply for the course, rhmc.ae, that's also the website. But yeah, Tally Meena के Instagram page पे जाइए. Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure. हर बार आप आते हैं. So much of clarity. Thank you again.
Perfect. Thank you both of you and Tally for giving a great opportunity, and it's a great day. Wish you all a lovely day.
Thank you.